Hi, this is Representative Al Baldessaro, once again, who's looking out for you here in Londonderry and at the state in Concord. With 20 days left of the election, we need your help. And with my special co-host here, Representative Sherm Packett. Sherm, how the hell are you?
Good afternoon.
Sherm, what's been going on?
Well, I mean, right now it's just an all-out battle to make sure that we regain control of the legislature so that the state of New Hampshire can remain the state of New Hampshire we love and believe in and not turn into Massachusetts North.
I hear you. That's why we got one of our special state reps here in the town council. He's double duty there. He's a glutton for punishment. Representative Tom Dolan. Tom, welcome.
Thank you.
And one of our new guys, but he's not new to the Republican Party. He's done more for the Republican GOP throughout the state than probably anyone in this state, Wayne MacDonald. And he's a Londonderry resident running for his first time? First time as a state representative, and we need your help to make sure that the Republicans take all 7 seats. And we take the lady that's in there right now that's a Democrat, and we're going to be talking about her voting record in a while, that is not doing anything right for the state of New Hampshire, for Londonderry, in your pocketbook. Well, Sherm, I tell you, it's getting tiresome, reading a lot of this stuff here, going through all the votes that the Democrats have been doing, the damage, and it's just unbelievable what's going on.
Well, we could spend about 5 hours going over, the bills that, fortunately the governor vetoed this year. We were able to stay in all except for 2 of the vetoes. I mean, people would have lost probably about half their paycheck if they had got whatever they wanted.
Oh, you ain't kidding, man. It's a shame.
And people need to understand that. I think one of the biggest things I noticed was, a question was asked on Channel 9 to both Governor Sununu and Dan Feltus, Senator Feltus. It said, how do you plan on addressing the budget this next session, where we could be anywhere from $400 to $700 million in the red? And I equate it to this: if 2 people are working in a household and one loses their job, you don't keep spending the same amount of money. You decide how you can still stay in the house and provide for your family on one paycheck until the other one gets a job back.
No kidding. Yeah.
Well, we got to look at the state of New Hampshire the same way. This next session, we're going to have to make some tough choices. And Governor Sununu said, that's exactly what basically Governor Sununu said. There's going to have to be some tough choices. When they asked Dan Feltus that, Senator Feltus says, I'm not cutting anything. Well, if he's not cutting anything, and he's not going to try and do some trimming of the budget at some point, what's the alternative? He's got to raise $600 million. Well, guess what? The only way he can do that is an income tax and raise probably almost, the business profits tax, the business enterprise tax, cigarette tax, and we could go on and on and on, rooms and meals tax. It's the only place he's going to find the money. If you're not going to cut and you're going to spend the same amount of money, then you got to find
revenue somewhere.
A pretty huge pocket of money.
Well, help's on the way, Sherm. We have a new Republican, not new Republican, but a Republican running, Wayne MacDonald. I understand you got a lot of experience in budgeting and stuff, so you're going to be an asset up there.
Well, I've got an MBA and I've taken finance courses, and I'm not saying I'm an expert in it, but I certainly know that you can't spend more than you receive, the more than you bring in. And it's not a new democratic concept to spend more than you take. I've always figured that Democrats don't have a minus button on their calculator, they just have a plus button. And that's certainly indicative of what Senator Feltus has said. And it certainly strains his credibility when he says he's willing to veto a broad-based tax if he wants to spend out all that money. He's got to get it from somewhere.
Right. I understand. Somebody that understands the quality of life here, let's use the town of Londonderry. Tom Dolan, how many budgets have you done as a council and then now as a first term, just finishing up your first term as a rep?
20 budgets.
20 budgets. And what have you done for the town of Londonderry in those budgets?
We have always, we have never spent more than we've taken in, and we've held the held tax increases at least to a minimum. I can tell you that recently, I saw this coming and had a discussion with my fellow town councilors in that role, that we need to look ahead to our next town budget and start taking some serious cuts, and talked with the town manager and asked that he take that message over to the superintendent as well, because the school department needs to make sure they start cutting their budget too, because we're not going to be able to rely on some of the tax sharing, revenue sharing that the state has been generous with over the past few years. I predict that's going to be cut back,
Right.
because the state's going to have some issues.
Well, Sherm was talking about the last time on like the rental cars.
Right.
I mean, I understand like we're gonna take a loss there, right, on all the rental cars since they sold them all off and.
Right. If you drive down Pettingill Road
Mm-hmm.
and look to the left as you're going west, those parking lots full of rental cars, they're empty now.
So what does that do to the town of Londonderry? I mean, that's what, $1 million, how much is?
It's about $1 million.
About $1 million revenue.
The way the law reads is that the cars have to be registered in the town that they're garaged in or parked in.
Mm-hmm.
And all those cars were registered in Londonderry. Since they've sold a huge portion of those cars, we won't be getting the registration fees this year because of that.
So that means Londonderry residents be prepared, and you're not gonna downshift, you're gonna do everything you can on the town, and you're gonna
Right.
help us on the state anyways, you know, to make sure that we don't downshift in the budget.
Right.
You know, and Sherm, how many budget cycles you been through with the state? I mean, you know,
Oh,
just
God,
count your
15,
terms, right? 15, yeah,
15
so-
county budgets.
And-
And that's the other thing that the citizens need to know is that we as state legislators are the final say on the county budget.
That's right. And we cut
And-
it this time.
And we kept it, we really did a good job this time. And I mean, even now, the county budget, because you've got the nursing home, you've got, outside care, you've got the county attorney's office, you've got the sheriff's department, the register of deeds, all that falls underneath the county budget. And I think our county budget was roughly 85 million, I forget the exact amount, but the county budget is about $85 million. Now that equates to, I think, about, what, a just under $2 per thousand in the town budget, if I'm correct, Tom, I can't remember
Tax rate,
exactly.
right.
But it's somewhere around that nature,
Right.
yeah.
So actually, Tom does triple duty. He's got a local budget to deal with, a county budget to deal with, and a state budget
That's
to
right.
deal with.
He's a glutton for punishment. But see, being retired, that's one of the benefits. Like you're retired now.
I am.
So
I
you
am.
have the time to do this and make a difference in the state of New Hampshire. I mean, I can look in this camera and tell the people right now, we're looking out for your quality of life. Everyone sitting at this table and the Republicans throughout the state. This is why it's very important that you vote Republicans right down the line, all the way down, the county attorney, county treasurer, the sheriff, who am I
It's-
missing?
Register of
what-
probate.
the register of probate,
Register of
the
probate,
treasurer.
Commissioner.
The commissioner,
Yeah.
yeah, we got a commissioner's race in Londonderry this time because there's 3 districts, 3 different commissioners, and they do rotate. And this time, the commissioner's race is up. So that commissioner will be in there for the next 4 years.
And they can't leave one leave one spot open there, because the Democrats right now today, they're throwing out so many lies and deceit in the newspaper, it's a shame. I mean, I have to call them basically a liar and tell them they're clueless, because they're saying things about representatives that really, our votes show that we voted, to cut and not to go after your quality of life or take food off the table.
Several times there were attempts to institute an income tax in this past legislative session.
I got that whole list, you ain't kidding.
We argued against, we talked against it, we voted. Unfortunately, the Democratic majority voted for it, but thankfully we had the governor in the corner office that shot it down.
That's right. You ready to get into this, Wayne?
Oh, sure. I mean, well, one of the deceptions that the Democrats use is they don't call it an income tax, they call it a payroll tax.
Right.
They call it something else, but that's what it is. They call it a medical leave tax, but
The family
but it's
medical.
all coming out of your paycheck, so it is an income tax.
And that was on everybody in the state, that was, right? That
It's
was gonna pay
mandatory.
Mandatory
It's mandatory.
tax.
The Democrats wanted mandatory so that everybody would have to pay for it. And if you look at every study, every state that's done this, they start out at one level and it just keeps rising and rising.
Right.
So there's no way it would have stayed at 0.5%. It would have been up to 1%, then probably
Right.
2%. And over the years, it just would have kept rising because of simple economics.
Our philosophy has been that we have to reduce government's appetite for taxes. Because unless we reduce that appetite, then the spending goes on, and the way to, and then the last question to ask, which should have been the first, is how are we going to pay for that?
Right.
And it's going to be, you have to balance the books. It means you're going to have to raise taxes.
You ain't kidding. I mean, one bill there that I voted against was, a $50 million bond. You know what I mean, for water, when we could be working with the cities and towns to share the wealth on any issues with the water. The state's already paying and bringing in the state to help out cities and towns. But when they voted on that $50 million bond, I mean, we still got roads and bridges to repair. I don't know how much money we can bond at one time, and with our where we rate our rating.
I think it was about 3 or 4 terms ago, one of the terms that the Democrats were in, they bonded $60 million, I mean, and that is another issue, that at some point we'll probably have to get into, is the repair and the upkeep of the infrastructure.
Right. And I would rather see us, turn around like the roads. Look at Exit 4A. I mean, you're on the council, right? What are you hearing about that?
Well, we started at the beginning with a $5 million bill to each of the towns of Derry and Londonderry, or a $10 million exit, and we were bound by a judge's ruling to pay for that. Now it's talking about approaching $100 million total to do that exit, and that's one of the questions that we've got to push back on the DOT as to why that rate of increase has been so high. That is so much higher than the rate of inflation. It's just
Right.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember 2-3 months ago, it was at about 55 million. And then all of a sudden, I saw in the paper there that it jumped up another $30 million.
Right.
And so, you're right, Tom. I mean, we are approaching $100 million for an exit. I mean,
Right. And it's an exit that is not a complete exit. It's an exit that's primarily going to the east. So if it was an east-west exit, it would be even more expensive. So a lot of it started off being in the environmental impact issues and so forth, but it's just gone nutty. We really need to sit down with the governor and with the DOT and have us all understand why the rate of increase is so high and what we're going to do, because it's not fair to the taxpayers that we should be seeing a rate of inflation for transportation costs like that, upwards of an annual rate of inflation of 15-20%. That's crazy.
We bonded that. I shouldn't say we bonded. We voted to bond that 20-something years ago.
Right.
Now we've been spending money on different things, environmental impact statements and other
Right.
stuff there. Are we even close to spending the $5 million? And
Yeah.
and did we even bond that money yet to pay for that money or to reimburse?
We haven't bonded it yet. We've been spending it in smaller bites, and we're about half spent through the $5 million. And if they were to say, okay, time to do the exit, we'd probably bond the balance of
Right.
it,
Okay.
and then pay back the town with the bond.
Oh, good. All right. Are you, I don't know what you've been involved with on that part there with the GOP when you were there, but have you done anything on, as far as with the roads or anything like that? I'm not sure what committee you want to be on, but.
Well, in terms of the party's involvement with this issue, I mean, we basically support public officials in their efforts to, obviously, because tourism is so important in New Hampshire, we need to have good roads. For that reason, we need to have good roads just for our citizens, to make sure they're able to get back and forth to work safely. And the party's always been, very aggressive in terms of supporting all of you folks, all of the legislators, the House, the Senate, others. The Executive Council, I know, has been involved in the 10-year highway plan. The party's always had a focus on making sure that that was fulfilled. I think the 10-year highway plan, or much of the highway infrastructure efforts, began under Governor John Sununu back in the 80s, and it's only gotten more important since then.
Oh, okay. You know, some of the things we're gonna look at down the road here, I guess after we recover from COVID, like I pulled out some data here, was talking about considerate tax limitation measures. I mean, like Texas, they rolled back 3.5% in property tax, but there's certain things, they had all these business they attracted coming in, you know, to Texas. So after this budget cycle, I don't think we can do it now, but after the budget cycle, when we recover from the COVID there, maybe, you know, we have to put our heads together on how we
Right.
can, you know, make it livable better for
Right.
rolling back these property taxes.
One of the things that has helped Londonderry is the industrial park development up at Pettingill Road. That's the largest tract of contiguous industrial property in the state. And we've been able to take advantage of the development up there. In fact, if you drive through there, you'll see Bellavance Beverage is just about completing their
Right.
building. And in fact, I'm going to be going up as part of the council to take a look at they have a solar farm on the roof. It's going to be the largest
Awesome.
rooftop solar farm in the state. So that additional property tax input to the town of Londonderry has helped us, whereas some of the other towns around are suffering with property tax increases because they don't have that.
Well, that airport was a vision. Remember years ago, I mean, Kathy Wagner and Steve Young, and I used to think they were crazy because I was always against the taxpayers paying for the road. And then, you know, I said the businesses should be doing that. And then it ended up throughout the years, the businesses finally did. It was a joint effort, and that place, you know, is coming unbelievable over there at the airport. I mean, I live right on Hall Road, and, you know, of course, the traffic picked up on my road, you know, going down there, but that's the price you pay, you know.
Most of those big buildings up there are paying over $1 million a year
That's
to
a
the town.
win-win for the town there. So hopefully our schools, we can do something with our school budget, get them to slow down on that growth because they'll get less students and it's costing us more money, you know, for the schools. Something's not right there.
Right.
You know, but hopefully we can get that straightened
Yeah,
away.
our school budget now is well over $70 million a
Yeah,
year.
wow.
I think the town council should be commended for its leadership in terms of bringing new businesses into town. And many communities don't like to lose their rural character, their country-like atmosphere, and I understand that. But you need to expand your tax base. Londonderry's done a great job of that and continues to.
Well, you know, one of the new businesses, I was at a meeting there and they were bragging about it was, you know, and I could say who's coming. I guess they're making a deal with Chipotle over at the new project over there where the 603 is, somewhere in that
yeah.
area there.
Woodmont Orchards.
Woodmont, yeah, somewhere near there. I guess Corky Mesner, who was their lawyer, I guess hooked them up with the owners over there to try to.
Good.
So I'm hoping that deal came through and we'll have a Chipotle
See, he's
over there.
already improving New Hampshire.
Yeah,
representing us
he's
well.
already doing, yeah,
He's not
making
even
a
there yet.
difference there. You
There's
ain't
a new
kidding.
Planet Fitness that's going to open up next to Shaw's.
Yep, Planet Fitness. You see that big truck they got rolling around here?
Isn't Governor Benson involved with them? Or?
I don't know if he is. Is he?
He was, wasn't he?
You know,
I don't know.
he might work out there, but
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I thought he was one of the
he is in
investors
pretty
in
good
that,
shape
or
for his
part
age. So I don't know. But they got this big truck there. My wife talked to the owner, and they roll around and they try to talk my wife into saying, "We'll spend so much money here, and we can roll around with all the Republicans' names and pictures on this TV thing." But I thought for the money that they wanted for, you know, for the day, I won't even say on TV what I was quoted, but it was just too much. You know what I mean? So it wasn't, you know, worth for one day, you know, to do something like that. But like I said, I even thought about if it was half the price they gave me, then I might have said, okay, we could split, you know, but yeah, you know what I mean? So it's something we get down the road maybe. But anyways, I don't know where we're going from here as far as Election Day coming up November 3rd. I met a lady, an elderly lady at the town this morning. I was there meeting with Kevin Smith, and she come over and she was so excited. She said, this is the first time I ever done an absentee ballot. She's about 85 years old. And she said, the reason I brought it in myself, she says, because I'm worried about going to the polls, you know, the long lines. She didn't say about COVID, just said the long lines, waiting in line. But she said, I wanted to make sure my vote count. She was a Republican. I was impressed with her. So she brought it in personally and you know, carried her
Well,
absentee.
that's a good point at the polls, that we have a new system now, a new check-in system. It's a computerized check-in system that makes the check-in much faster. I mean, you used to line up by the letter of your name.
Right.
Now you just fly right through. And so the constraining factor is traffic, road traffic. The high school's going to be closed that day. That's going to help. And there will be they're gonna remove some of the rocks that are around the TV studio where we're sitting right now on the back side. So when people come in, they're gonna exit behind the cable studio and out through Matthew Thornton out
That'd
that
be
way.
awesome.
And that'll create a continuous row of traffic that will hopefully move faster. So
Right.
if people get caught in traffic, the best thing to do is come first thing in the morning. The polls open at 6 a.m.
Right.
We have the widest poll period of time in the entire state, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So come first thing in the morning, or come last thing in the evening, because there's really nobody here between, say, 6:30 p.m. and 8 p.m.
Well, I hope we have a nice day. No rain, no snow.
Right.
We've been known to have some snow days there. On,
Watch your mouth,
Lexington
Al.
Day.
Watch your mouth on
Yeah.
the snow stuff.
It would
You
be
ain't
more like
kidding.
better, it's better if it was more like today and not like yesterday.
Yeah,
in
you
other
ain't
words.
kidding. Yeah, I mean, although we needed that rain yesterday, that was a win-win
Yeah,
for us.
right.
You know, my grass was looking a little shabby there, but you know, I'm glad it happened there. But yeah, so there's some other areas there on, you know, that maybe down the road we take a look at too on our next is on how do we transparency on our taxation so people know where their actual money's going on the state. I know we have a website out there, and I haven't looked at it in a while.
Well, if you're talking the state budget, when somebody on the finance committee gets a copy of the state budget, it's about that thick.
Right.
You know, when I was minority leader, I got a copy of it, and I started going through it, and I said, my God, now I know what these people on the
Is that
finance
just
committee.
HB1, not HB2, right?
Yeah,
Just-
yeah, it's separate. Yeah.
Separate, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's literally about that thick, you know, to go through it. And that's why you have 3 divisions in the, you know, the finance committee to try and, you know, go through these things as best they can. And we gotta remember that they only have 2 months. So many times the finance committee is working 7 days a week.
Right.
You know, to go, you know, to go through the budget
Right.
and dissect it properly. So when it goes over to the Senate, you know, they got about 2 months.
Right, I know, like on my committee, on the municipal committee, if we create a bill that has a financial impact to it, when we're done with it, it's not done. It has to
No.
go to the finance
Right.
committee, and they
Finance
have to analyze what the financial impact to the state is, and where the money's gonna come from, if it requires money.
Wow. Well, it's a rough job, but, you know, somebody's got to do it, and this is why it's very important. You can't have a tax and spender like the Democrat rep that we have. Not that, I shouldn't say that. Let me rephrase that. She votes with her party because she really don't know all the committee stuff that goes on. Like, we're involved, part of leadership, we read these bills. You know what I mean? And I read probably about 85%. I'll never ever say I read 100%. But I have these groups. We have policy, House Republican Alliance, Liberty, that dissect certain bills, you know, especially the controversy one. And it gives us an idea on how our vote goes, which makes a big difference. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the past 3 budgets, you know, the 2 when, you know, we were in the majority and I was the Speaker Pro Tem and Deputy Speaker, I mean, we had briefings weekly on the budget, you know, both from, you know, the Finance Committee and the Governor's Office. And, you know, this time too, I mean, we got constant briefings from the Governor's Office as to where they were. You know, we were in the minority, so, I mean, obviously it was controlled by the Democrats. And, but we were constantly briefed on it. And it's well, as you know, Tom, you know, going through, you know, as a counselor, you know, how complicated some of that stuff may be.
Right, right.
You
I know one of the things, and I was hoping that we could make, I've come to embrace and really understand well Article 28A of the New Hampshire Constitution. We have the
Yeah.
U.S. Constitution. We also have the state constitution. Article 28A of the state constitution says it's unlawful to create a mandate
That's right.
and not fund it. So it's unlawful for the state to put a statute in place that would force the towns to spend money unless the state gives the town the money to spend. So the Republicans have been, across the board, have been watchdogs on all these committees saying, hey, wait a minute, you want to put that, you want to create a bill, you want to put that in front of the governor, it costs money. And that's a violation of the 28A of our Constitution. So you're going to make that bill unconstitutional unless we figure out a way to source some funds to travel with that.
Right. You know what you just brought up, and it just flashed in my brain? Many kids come up to the State House, and in school they teach them the U.S. Constitution. But when I ask the question about New Hampshire Constitution, a lot of them don't even know we have a Constitution. So this is very important to teach in our school here,
Right.
because when we take our oath, we take the oath to both New Hampshire and the U.S. Constitution. But the kids are not being taught this here. And if they read our 2A, our other, I mean, it's cut and dry, short and sweet under there. Our Second Amendment there, but
Right.
it's called 2A in New Hampshire.
Too many times I've heard this, and this is a paraphrase, but almost a quote, in committee discussions. Well, that bill, that's an unfunded mandate. Well, it's not going to cost that much.
Right, yeah.
Wait a minute, 1 penny unfunded is unconstitutional. It doesn't say unless it doesn't cost all that much. And when you put a whole bunch of bills together that don't all cost all that much, they cost a lot of money.
That's right, it adds up. Pennies, nickels, and dimes add up to dollars. Would you agree, Wayne?
So
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I think it's as you said earlier, Al. It's the Republicans that are watching out for you and watching out for your tax dollars.
Well,
Back, if I could just jump in.
yeah, go ahead, jump in anytime.
Sherm, you mentioned at the beginning that it's something like $700 million is the projected deficit right
It
now.
could be that high where,
And-
we won't know.
I mean, you guys were there, both of you were there in 2011 when we got the majority back after 4 years of Democratic leadership in the legislature. Wasn't it like a $900 million to
About
$1
that.
billion
was-
structural deficit you guys were facing and had to deal with at that time?
There's different numbers. There's some say 850, some say
About,
900
it was
billion.
about 850 million. We had predicted, because that's when I was the Republican leader, we had predicted, and we actually put together a separate budget, presented it to the Democrats and said, unless we adopt something, a facsimile of our budget, you're gonna be in trouble. We had predicted $800 million. And it turned out to be approximately $850 million.
And the old speaker that we had, Bill O'Brien, because he was making these cuts without downshifting, I mean, he had to have police at his house. The threats, everything he got from people on the left, were so mad on the cuts we had to make. But, we can't keep taxing people out of their homes.
Right.
And he stuck to his guns, and he was determined that we're not going to downshift to the people. I think a couple of things did. We had to, do some stuff
There was some downshifting. in the
but
budget.
it not enough to put damage and hurt the taxpayers' pockets. It was very minimal,
It took a Republican legislature and some very aggressive action to reverse the course of the Democrats. And it's going to take that again, and that's all the more reason why we hope that Republicans are a majority
Oh,
this time.
without a doubt. I mean, last week on our TV show, we talked about, some of the legislation, what the Democrats did. I posted it on my Facebook also, how your state reps voted through February, 2018, 19 and 2020. And it's just out of control on the taxes that they put forward. I mean, the carbon tax. I mean, you remember that one there? We embarrassed them so bad, didn't they?
$800 million carbon tax, and they tabled it because they didn't want to vote on it. And then there was the sales tax that was put in by the rep from Nashua, who also put in the helmet law, mandatory helmet law, mandatory seatbelt, and it was, I think, 4.5% sales tax that he put in and he wanted to, which would have devastated the southern part of the state because people from Massachusetts are not going to come up here for 1 or 2%. They're going to come up here for 5.5%. But it's just a concrete fact that they would not come up here for 1 or 1.5%.
And actually, it would hurt all border traffic, any businesses along the Maine
The
border
whole-
and Vermont border.
The whole Maine and New Hampshire, Maine and Vermont too, but the main pain
Sure.
would have been.
Massachusetts,
You
sure,
go
right.
into any mall in southern part of New Hampshire, and half the cars in there are Massachusetts, and they come up here, they buy the product that they're coming up here to buy. Most of the time, they'll, maybe pick up, some liquor, and if they smoke, they'll pick up cigarettes, and they'll go to lunch, so they pay the rooms and meals tax, and maybe even buy some gasoline. So it's a win-win-win-win.
Right.
And if that 4.5% sales tax had passed, all that would have been gone. And the southern part of the state would have become a desert because most of the stores would have had to close because they couldn't exist on without that
You
traffic.
know, you hit something on the money here, and I'm sure it works hand in hand with Tom there, is this, on that gas tax. There's another name for it.
It's a road toll.
Road toll. And how much, you get like what, 700,000 back to town council, you know, to help with our roads. So imagine if we didn't have people gassing up in Londonderry.
Right.
What would happen? I mean, we'd get less money, we couldn't maintain. Look at our roads in Londonderry. You know what I mean? They're beautiful. You don't see all these potholes like you do. You go over the line there, and I'll use Nashua.
Right.
Drive to Nashua and take a look at their roads.
Awful.
And they get more money than we get.
Drive to
You know?
Nashua and Manchester and take a
Yeah,
look at their
Manchester, the same thing. So the town fathers here in Londonderry are doing a great job maintaining our roads, but when you gas up in Londonderry, that money's coming back to us to help with those roads, so it's a no-brainer. I don't know what we get, do we get out of
I think
the
it's 12.5% we get back from the,
rooms and meals?
no, well, the rooms
No.
and meals is separate, but the highway trust.
The highway trust?
Highway trust, I think it's 12.5%.
I think rooms and meals, we get some in the high
I
20s.
don't know how much we get on that.
28%, something like that.
I forget exactly what the rooms
We're-
and
the-
meals are.
We'd hope to get 40%, but that's
Yeah.
the goal. But
Right.
Yeah.
we-
But still, that's money. When you eat in our restaurants, you know, work, eat, and gas up in Londonderry, it's a no-brainer. Your help money's coming back to us,
Right.
which is a win-win for the taxpayers. Less money you have to worry about on.
One of the things that's been discussed, and I don't think there's a position one way or the other. I know I wasn't happy with it, but one of the things that we discussed in the last legislature was that to increase the registration fees for electric cars, because we're not getting, they don't consume gas, and therefore we're not taxing the gas that they would normally have consumed. So in order to find the money that's lost from the gas not being purchased, there's talk about having a very high registration fee for an electric car, which I was against that because to me that's just going to discourage
Right.
the conservation through purchase of those vehicles. We've got to find a different way to, I think, to fund the missing tax that we're not getting from the gasoline.
You know, my wife was she was thinking about buying one of them hybrid cars. When I talked about how you're going to get punished down the road here because you wanted to save money in a hybrid, but they're going to hit you, like you just said at the when you register your car, a surcharge.
Right.
You know, the way they wanted to do it. So she went and she bought a Lincoln. She said, well, if I'm going to get hit with a surcharge, I might as well, the hell with the surcharge, let me buy something.
Right.
You know, and she just bought a Lincoln, you know, SUV type car. You know, that way there, she wouldn't get hit with that. She'd rather spend it in a nicer car instead of going small. I mean,
Right.
it's a shame that we're forcing people to do that, but it just makes no sense. We need a better thing. Maybe we need to put a tax on the electric cars, on how much energy you use, and that go to the
Well, there is a tax on that. When you plug your car in to charge it up, there is a tax.
right, but there's no road tax.
No.
You know, maybe a road tax needs to go to those there. A certain part of that money needs to go to the roads.
You know, being realistic, Al, that wouldn't.
It'd be tough to do. I
It
mean,
wouldn't.
yeah.
Well, not tough to do, but it wouldn't make up for the loss in the fuel tax,
Right.
the road toll. It's a complicated issue. Something I've been working on over 10 years. I sat on a task force for National Conference of State Legislators, and there was 12 of us from across the country that spent a year on trying to figure this out. Because going back to the last year of the Bush administration, that was the first time that they had to take general fund money and put it into the federal highway fund. And each year, the amount they had to put in is going up. But it's a threefold problem in many cases. First of all, you've got all the electric vehicles that are coming out that pay no gas tax, road toll, gas tax at all. You've got the cars today that are getting 10, 15, 20 miles per gallon more than the older cars.
Right.
So that's a tremendous decrease in that. And, you know, it's just not adding up, okay? You're right, Al. Something has to be done. The question is what?
What? Yeah, then that's
You
what we
know,
have to
the
think,
question
really.
is what has to be done that's going to be fair to everybody.
Yeah.
Now, and I will say the answer that we came up with after looking at 50 different proposals, and we talked to over 35, 40 experts, okay? The only one that was long-term viable was a vehicles miles traveled. But to do that, the cars would have to be built with the proper equipment in it. And then you come up with all the other vehicles, all the other places that buy gasoline. If you own an off-road vehicle, if you own a motorcycle, if you buy gas for your, your lawnmower, your snowblower, or anything else, obviously that doesn't come underneath, vehicles mile traveled. So it's an extremely difficult, complicated issue. And to do a vehicles mile travel scenario would probably take 20 to 30 years to implement across the country. Because it would have to be like the tractor trailers. Remember about, 20, 25 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
You used to have to buy a sticker from each state.
Right.
And then if you saw a tractor trailer coming, you saw 20 or 30 stickers on the bumper. Now they've got the, deal where, one state will collect and, it'll be distributed. And so it's a complicated issue, but at some point, it does need to be fixed. There needs to be an answer, for our roads and our bridges.
Right.
And, to maintain, what we have and what we're gonna need in the future.
Like me,
Especially when we're talking almost $1 billion to widen 20 miles of I-90,
Until Sherm was on the
93.
Transportation Committee. for
Oh,
a long
yeah,
time, right?
well, he's been on it for years. He's got a handle on it there, and he's trying to figure this out. Him and, others that put their heads
I
together.
mean, you talk about exit 4A. Look, when we started looking at I-93, from Salem to Manchester, it's what, $165 million? And now it's what,
Yeah,
close to
400,
900
yeah,
million,
more.
900 million?
Then
So,
we, we have the bond, the Democrats, 200 million or something, what did they do? There was a problem there. They had to sell off a road.
that was a turnpike.
Turnpike
That was a
in Portsmouth,
turnpike
I'm
fund.
trying, my memory.
They did that to put it into the highway trust fund.
And what I didn't understand, that's part of the federal highway also, why didn't they go to the federal government and get more money and tell, like Massachusetts with the big dig? The federal government supported them on that money, and that's just our money coming back to us.
They did do that for 93.
But
A
did
lot
we
of
get-
that money did
right.
come from 93, but each state only gets allocated so much
Yep.
by the
And
formula.
we're a small state. And,
And actually, we are a donor state, overall.
Right.
Okay? When I'm saying donor state overall, not just the gas tax, but everything that we give to the federal government, whatever it is, we only get a certain percentage back, and it's under, if every dollar we get less back.
It'd be interesting to find out where we're at today on the percentage there, whether we're at 75, say.
It used to be around 70 or 75, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure what it is today.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that it takes the policymakers sometimes to get a stiff back and to talk to the bureaucracy and say enough is enough.
Right.
Exit 4A is an example. We did this environmental impact study, several $100,000. And then as time progressed, it's like the agency that did it wasn't an agency. The business that did it came back and says, "Oh, by the way, that study is now expired. You're going to have to redo it."
Right.
And we looked at each other and said, "No, we're not going to redo it. You take what you did last time, redate it, and submit it. That's as good as it's going to get.
Yep.
We're not going to spend another couple $100,000 just to repeat the same thing we did before and count all the beaver homes and everything." So that's what we did. So I think sometimes we have the elected people who are accountable. The bureaucracies are not accountable, and the businesses that are hired are not accountable.
Right.
It's the elected officials who
We
are
have to hold
accountable
them,
to the
yeah.
taxpayers, and we've got to sometimes say, enough's enough.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to get. Deal with it.
Well, that's what we've been doing for a while. I mean, he used to write press releases helping us out on the state there, as the GOP chair, on the, oh, I'm sorry, did I knock that over?
You did.
Oh, can't take me anywhere. But anyways, and when Sherm was the Republican leader or other leaders that we had up there, we were fortunate, the GOP to hit them and let the people know what's going on because the press didn't let them know. Every time we try to cut, we were the bad guys.
Well, I just remember 4 years of Democratic control.
They destroyed it.
We were after 4 years, we're $850 million in the red, and they had raised 100 new fees and taxes. 100 in 4 years. And we still ended up $850 million in the red after 4 years of Democratic control.
It's an insatiable appetite, and that's where it's got to stop. You cannot feed the monster enough.
No, not at all.
You've got to cut the diet. You got to put them on a diet.
Got to weed them off the bottle.
Right.
That's basically what it is there. And if you take a look at some of the things that we've done over the years, I mean, we embarrassed them. We didn't vote on a budget. The budget, and then the governor vetoed it. No Republicans voted for that budget. He vetoed the budget there, and it forced them to keep the money in the rainy day fund so they wouldn't spend that money. I don't know, where we at in the rainy day fund? I haven't looked at the numbers recently.
Oh, geez,
Are
recently.
we still over 100 million? Because I don't know if the governor...
I honestly don't know. Well, I think we are. I mean, the Democrats want to rate it. They wanted to bring it down to about 10 million, but I honestly don't know where we are right
We
now.
used to get our numbers from the treasurer. He'd send us a report and everything on what's going on, but I don't know, maybe I missed it. I haven't seen one in a while.
I haven't seen
since
one
the
in a
COVID
while.
stuff
Yeah,
has gone on.
right, yeah.
I don't know if they're working from home or what's going on, and you ready to have some fun with this stuff?
Sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, yes. A challenging good time.
Sounds good time. Is it like being you think the GOP chair, but now you get to get your hands dirty?
Well, it's certainly a different approach.
Yeah.
Well, I actually was talking to former Chief Justice Lynn the other day because he's running for the House from Windham.
He won his primary, yeah.
And we were joking how he's going to be moving from the judicial branch to the legislative branch. I'm moving from the executive branch because I was with Health and Human Services for 23 years. And he and I are both going to meet in the legislative branch and try something totally different for both of us. So.
Well, that'd be awesome, yeah. Wade, I look forward to working with you because we've got to definitely take that seat back in Londonderry here because, like I said, I just look at all this stuff in front of me here, these votes. I mean, give you an idea, the plastic bags, just to give you an idea. We all know, and my wife uses these bags sometimes, those cloth bags, but you got to throw them out or wash them, because of the germs, everything that builds up. The plastic bags are win-win because many people, seniors, use them for their dog poop, pick up or whatever, other people,
Sure,
they
I
use
do.
them for the little trash cans and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And they wanted to ban this. So lucky we were able to call them out.
That came through my committee.
That's
plastic
right.
bags and
And
plastic
I
straws.
was just going to say, and straws.
It was kind of a sneak peek into the Green New Deal of what's could possibly happen. And they wanted to ban all plastic bags, and we says, what about the plastic bags that you get at department stores, or what about the plastic bags that when you order something online, when you open the box, it's in a plastic bag? Well, we're not really talking about that stuff. It was very confusing. So they wanted just to go to shopping bags
Right.
at grocery stores. Until when COVID hit, he said that the cloth bags, reusable cloth bags, were a possible transmitter of the COVID virus.
Right.
And the plastic bags, the disposable plastic bags, were a protection against that. They went silent all of a
Right,
sudden.
he sure did.
So,
yeah.
but the straws went through, and the governor vetoed all that
Well, I
stuff.
was so glad he did that. In Florida we use, I don't know if you've gone anywhere where they have those paper straws. And I'm not a drinker. I have what they call a virgin daiquiri on the beach. And about 10 minutes of use of that straw, you can't even get anything out of it. It's a paper.
Well,
it's terrible.
we did some research on that on my committee on this, and we were talking about the ocean, the ocean environment, and they had these dramatic pictures of turtles having consumed straws and things like this, and it was killing them. 99% of all the straws and plastic in the ocean is coming from two rivers. One's in Africa, and one's in India. And the United States is less than 1%. The rest of the world, less than 1%
Yeah.
of that. So, we're going to pat ourselves in the back and have a parade that we stopped all the environmental impact of plastic straws. We're not really the contributor of that.
You notice your first term up there, Tom, and Jim and I, I'm sure, would notice it all the time. What goes on in other countries or other states, they want to do in New Hampshire. I mean, the guns, for example, let's use the red flag law. Because there's issues in Chicago, Detroit, Maryland, and other areas there, black-on-black shootings there, poor little kids being shot, they think that problem's here in New Hampshire. So they want to pass strict gun laws with no due process. You know, here, I mean, how many times have we seen this, Sherman? Your time.
I've
You've
lost
been up there
track.
longer than me.
And it's important to
You
point
know?
out
Lost
that those
track.
gun laws do nothing to help control gun violence in
No,
those communities.
you're
either.
taking away from law-abiding citizens, and
Right.
meanwhile, the criminals run the streets.
And Chicago has one of the highest
Yeah.
levels of gun violence in the country.
That's a funny meme that I put on my Facebook the other day, and it said that we're gonna have to outlaw spoons because spoons made me fat.
Yeah, I seen that.
Well, a pen gave me bad handwriting.
Yeah, yeah, you ain't kidding. But I mean, I can't figure out why. I mean, you look at our Democrat rep. The notes I got in front of me, she followed every bill with the Democrats. And it's a shame. It was always 6 Londonderry Republicans against, one for. 6 for, 1 against. Something's wrong with that picture. Okay, so and what she's doing is no good for Londonderry. And we all love our Democrat state rep. You know what I mean? She's
a lovely woman.
She's a lovely
She's a
lady,
lovely,
and her
lovely
husband is a
lady.
great guy. But she's not doing Londonderry any justice because her votes are taxing you. Her votes are taking away gun rights. Her votes are putting on restrictions. I mean, I'm going to say this here because got to call it what it is.
Well, the Democratic majority is very tough on their folks, and they punish them if they don't fall in line and lockstep with their leadership. And unfortunately, she may
And
be
I
under
feel
that kind
bad
of
for
pressure.
her. Yeah, because she's following like a puppet there with the Democrat Party. Why would our Democrat rep want to put in, you brought it up last time, illegal driver's license? Why would she want to pass for that? There's reason behind
Driver's
that.
license for illegal aliens.
For illegal aliens, yeah. Why? What do you think they want to use that license for with illegals?
To vote.
To vote. Right? Am I right?
Exactly, of course.
It's
Yeah,
a no-brainer.
It's in another set of words. It's called voter harvesting,
Yeah.
and they're looking for ways. Who can we get to vote that hasn't voted in the past or hasn't been allowed to vote, and they just go out finding ways to do that. And there's a lot of talk about letting prisoners in our prisons vote, felons, give them the right to vote, because
Right.
they think that they'll probably vote for Democrats.
If you talk to this guy here, Sheriff Maceos, he owns a gas station here in Londonderry, the BP, go talk to him and ask him what his sheriffs are so involved with since they changed the law on bail reform. That they're going after these people, they're getting out of jail and getting back in trouble, and now they got to go find them. They're spending more time in this bail reform chasing down these people that got out, and now it's a rolling door. What they did to this bail reform, I think we need to take a look at this here.
Right.
We need to take
You know?
a hard look at that, because if you talk to the county attorney, she's going through the same thing. When she made her presentation to the executive committee, she was saying that because of this, her cases have increased drastically, and she actually needed another person in her office, another lawyer in her office, because of the fact that there were so many cases coming in, they couldn't handle them.
Was that a bill that was passed over the governor's veto?
The Democrats, this got passed, went through, I think, before the governor. I
think
can't
it
remember
was
when it
under
came
Hassan,
in.
if I remember
Under
correctly.
Hassan,
I think it was
under
under
her
Hassan.
last year under bill reform. But anyways, it's a disgrace on what's going on here, because it's actually, in the long run, costing us more money, to go after these people and put them back in jail and everything else. Then they get right back out and they commit a crime again. And Chuck Maceo says he has to get another car for his sheriff department, to be able to do this stuff, to keep up with this bail bondsman stuff there.
You guys going to give him that car?
The
or
warrants.
The county going to give him that car? Or?
Oh, he got it. He got his
got it,
five.
right.
Yeah, because we already voted on the budget.
Yeah.
And that was the commissioners there, that one of them was going to run against Chuck, and I think he set him up for 2 years so he could set him up Coyle to run. I'm so glad thank you, Londonderry, for voting down Coyle, okay, because he's no good for the state and he's no good for the county and the town. That you all got rid of him, You remember him, right?
Oh, I do, I do.
That was a
But
nightmare.
I'd like to jump back to the felon thing. I was watching a little bit of the Comey Barrett,
The hearings.
the hearing today. Thank you. And I think it was Senator Cruz was talking about what the Democrats want to do with the felons. Not only do they want to allow felons that come out to vote, they want to allow felons that are in
In prison.
jail to vote. So we're going to allow somebody like Charles Manson to vote.
Well, they can
The
vote
old
against-
saying,
they can
what
vote
is
against
wrong
the
with
same
this
prosecutors
picture?
that put him there.
Yeah,
What is wrong with this
I don't
picture?
understand it there, you know. You know, just to touch on another thing there, because I have to bring this out, and you're witnesses on this here. So, because people, you need to understand what's going on here. This is very important and near and dear to my heart. HB 687, confiscating guns from law-abiding citizens without any due process. Passed. The only one that voted for that in Londonderry is Ann Warner. Now, Tom, if I got you mad and you called the police department and said, Al made a threat, he said I was an ugly son of a gun, all right? You know, next thing you know, the cops can come over, think I'm crazy, take my guns, and I have to prove that I'm not crazy because somebody made a false accusation on this here. The governor, the Democrats passed that law, and then it got vetoed by the governor, and we sustained the veto. Another one there, creating an income tax with rates set by unelected bureaucrats. You want to touch on that, or you want to touch, you know what I mean, on that one there, HB 712, that they wanted a certain group to raise taxes. I think it was one of the, one of the divisions. I don't have the, I should have brought the bill in front of me to refresh our memory.
I don't remember
Well,
that
it's one of
completely.
several that,
Yeah.
they came at the income tax
From different
In
ways.
different
different
directions.
directions and
Yeah.
Would
try,
it have been the Department of Revenue Administration that would have set the tax
It might have been
rate?
DRA, maybe.
I think it was
you know,
DRA, if
yeah.
I remember correctly, that would have been able to set it.
You know, another one there was the, let me see, what was the good
but
one
with
there?
the ski tax.
Yeah, that's right, it's
Oh,
the
there,
ski.
there was a ski tax, yeah, they wanted to, yeah.
They wanted to, when you go skiing, they want, if the tickets aren't expensive enough already, they wanted to add a tax on the skiing.
Now, one of the bills that was gonna, if you're a gun enthusiast, like many are in Londonderry, we have Londonderry Fish and Game, there was a bill that they wanted to say, we got a problem in New Hampshire, the sky's falling. We want you to take 3 days, you know, for the background check. Background through the FBI or the state police takes 5, 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes if you're lucky, okay? But they wanted to stretch that out 3 days because Londonderry residents of New Hampshire can't be trusted. Ann Warner voted for that, okay? That, just to give you an idea, and this, the people of Londonderry have to know. Am I missing anything here, guys?
Background checks are
You know,
very fast.
yeah,
Matter of minutes.
loopholes at the gun shows.
So it's like, you can do a background check in 15 minutes, but now we're gonna sit on it for
3
2.5 days.
Right.
And not tell you the answer. That's all that is.
You know, we have an 85-year-old veteran in town. Across the street from him is an NRA instructor, right? Sent me an email. I think you were on the phone call when I hit the governor up. Said, Governor, this guy bought a gun at Single. He's 85 years old, a veteran, wants to learn how to shoot again. Safety, wants to go out and shoot. But anyways, he ordered the gun. He couldn't get the gun. Londonderry already gave him a gun permit. But he can't get the gun until the FBI does the background check or the state troopers do their check. I had to get the governor involved with this here so that they can do this here. But the Democrats keep lying to the people and saying, they're not doing backgrounds, they're doing this, there's all these loopholes. They're lying to you. But anyways, the only reason this veteran didn't get his background check was because of COVID. They shut down that office for a while, and they were forwarding the lines to somebody's cell phone and in their home computer to be doing the checks. But that got fixed between Sherm and the governor and stuff there. So, but that's one of the bills that they're trying to put on the people, and it's a shame.
Let's remember the words of Beto O'Rourke when he was asked about guns. What was his words? And I think I can say exactly what he said. I'm going to come and get your guns.
That's right. Yes. And
Now that's gun confiscation, plain and simple.
And hasn't he already been named by Biden and Harris to have a major role in
That's
their
right,
business?
yes.
Exactly. And none of the other candidates disputed what
That's
he
right.
said.
Well, what did Harris say? Okay, Kamala Harris say. She said that by executive order, I will take care of the gun problem by executive order. So, I mean, I own a lot of guns. I like to shoot. I'm not a hunter, but I have it to protect my family, and that's what it's designed for. But remember they said that the sky was going to fall, all this stuff there in New Hampshire when we did Constitution carry?
I remember that. I
You remember that? You were chair, I think, back then.
I was.
Yeah.
And the governor vetoed that bill, and you overrode the veto.
That's
as I
right.
remember.
Yeah, we sure did.
Governor Lynch.
But people need to trust but verified.
Make no mistake about it.
Mm-hmm.
If the far left wing of the Democratic Party gets elected, which is, those are the ones that are gonna be running the country, they will have gun confiscation. Might not be the first year or the second year, but that's their goal, to confiscate the guns. And not just, you know, certain ones. They want a total confiscation. They won't tell you that. They'll lie to you about what they want to do, and they say they're for the Second Amendment, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to read between the lines.
Right. There was a note here I had on another bill which was making it easy for non-citizens to vote. But I'm not even gonna talk about that. And the reason I'm not gonna, because I don't have the legislation in front of me to let me know what went on with that there, and plus Ann was absent on that vote anyways. So I won't even bring that one up there. But anyways, we got about 2 minutes left here, and Tom, what do you think? Where are we going here in the future here?
Let me tell you, one of the things that's been bothering me over the past several years is I've been watching the federal government losing its influence with cities across the nation when it comes time to root out criminals and so forth. And some of these cities have labeled themselves sanctuary cities, and they've the policymakers have forbidden their police departments to deal with the federal officers. So one of the things that I want to do is make it illegal in New Hampshire for cities like Nashua, Manchester, or any town to label themselves or declare themselves a sanctuary city.
Well, they can't, because we're not a home rule state. They're calling themselves something else and doing it quietly behind the scenes.
Right. I want to root
Yeah,
that out
I
and make
agree
it
with
unlawful.
you. We tried that a few years ago there. I co-sponsored legislation like that, and it didn't go anywhere because they said we were a home rule state.
Didn't Lebanon or isn't there a community that tried to do that in New Hampshire already?
Yes, I think Dover or Portsmouth, one of those.
Portsmouth,
I think
yeah.
Portsmouth did, and one of the other, Dover or
I thought Lebanon
Somersworth,
tried
someplace
to.
like
They
this.
didn't-
I
wasn't
think
one.
Lebanon could have too, you know.
Yeah. Wayne, we got a less than a minute left going on here. How do people get in touch with you?
Well, my email is elephantsmarching@msn.com. You can tell I was a former state Republican chairman. My home phone, 603-434-8191. I'll be honored to serve you and to join these gentlemen in Concord and to fight the good fight and bring New Hampshire back into perspective, balance that budget, and without any new taxes or fees.
Awesome. Tom, I'm sure people know how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, I'm a known quantity. Please come out and vote Republican. We're the ones looking out for you, and we're the ones who are going to help keep your taxes down.
Thank you.
My main message to the citizens of Londonderry is, come out and vote. I hope you vote Republican, but come out and vote the ticket. It's so important that you vote the whole ticket, not just the few at the top, because those were the ones that make the difference in many cases of how Londonderry is going to be.
Once again, I'm Al Baldessau. You know how to find me, and this is Who's Looking Out for You, and we'll be back next week.